Okay, the records are now open. Okay, so this was kind of established in the last reading I just did, but you and Daniel are twin flames. Okay, so at one time you were the same soul, but then when you guys chose to have physical incarnations, your soul split. Okay, now interestingly enough, Daniel carries more of the divine feminine qualities. Okay, I know that sounds kind of weird, but
that sounds right.
Yeah, and you're kind of like more the divine masculine. Okay, and it's even reflected in your zodiac signs because he's a Pisces and you're an Aquarius. Okay, so Aquarius is actually a very masculine sign. And it's considered to be an air sign, not a water sign. A lot of people think it's a water sign because it's the water bearer, but it's actually an air sign. So you're coming in with more divine masculine qualities. And this is kind of interesting. I didn't see this in Tony's reading, but even though you two are inherently connected to each other, you actually incarnated in Lyra, and he incarnated in Vega. But you two came together, okay? Like you two met each other somehow. So you're more kind of like Lyra, Sirius, Pleiades, and then you had some involvement with Orion, okay? And then Daniel is Vega, Sirius, Orion. Okay, so you ultimately ended up in the Pleiades, but initially you ended up in Sirius. Okay, so what I see with your story is that unlike Daniel, okay, so Daniel was living like a very peaceful life in Vega. Okay, and I think you were somebody that, I don't know, it was through like a family connection or through maybe your own, I would say initiative, but you decided that you were a very young member of the Lyra and Starfleet, okay? And so you were traveling to different planets and locations in the Lyra system. And and then you initially ended up in Vega, okay, or you ended up in Vega, and I think somehow you met your twin flame, so that would be Daniel, okay. I don't know what his name was back then, but I'm going to say Daniel. And you two had kind of a love relationship, okay, so because you recognized yourself in him, so you recognized an aspect of yourself. And I think everything, so I think periodically you would visit him. So you didn't actually come from Vega, okay? You spent time on Vega, but you actually came from a planet in, one of the other Lyran star systems that was called Avalon, okay? And so, and initially, you and Daniel seemed very different from each other, but I think it was those differences that attracted you two. Okay, but you're actually, I think, also very much alike. Okay, so I think there's qualities about your personalities that are very similar. So you're both visionary souls. Okay, so and I think at the time you were like a junior technician, so you weren't quite in a leadership position back then, but you were assigned to a starship, and you were so different than what I think Daniel was used to in Vega, that he just was fascinated. He was fascinated by this white Lyran looking being. And I think everything was pretty good. I mean, you would periodically visit each other until the Lyra Draconian Wars. I think somehow you were on like vacation or a holiday, and you were visiting you're visiting Daniel in Vega, and you got stuck in Vega, okay, because the wars were going on, the ships couldn't come and pick you up, so you ultimately, I think, um, escaped the wars from a Vega starship rather than a Lyran starship. So you were stuck there with Daniel. And I think pretty much most of your family members that were in Avalon got wiped out. I mean, Avalon was probably one of the most heavily hit planets during the Lyra Draconian Wars. And so you escaped with Daniel on a Vega ship, and your ship ended up in Sirius. Okay, so what's interesting about twin flames is that oftentimes they'll come together, then they'll separate. They'll come together, then they'll separate in order to have different experiences. Okay, so so you and Daniel ended up settling in a small planet right outside of Sirius, or revolving around Sirius B, which was one of the star systems in the Sirius binary system, and you were trying to, I guess, get settled, or something was happening with that. I think initially Daniel took on some technological projects that he was involved with, and I think you did some administrative work with some of these projects. It was kind of like, you're actually in some ways more technical than him, but for some reason you just felt like, well, I want to just, I don't want to be too involved with this work, because I think at the time you were thinking that you might try to rejoin the Syrian, Starfleet or something like that. And then for some reason that never actually happened. Okay, so I think it was always a goal of yours, because you really enjoyed the Starfleet, being part of a starship, having that adventure, or that experience, all these different experiences. So so you were trying to get yourself to eventually be accepted for the I'll say the Starfleet Academy in Sirius A, but then you and Daniel, I think, there was a group of reptilian beings that showed up on your planet, your small planet in Sirius B, and offered you the opportunity to do this kind of work with their group. We're going to call them the V group, okay, just to kind of follow your guys' story, okay. Or they were from the Orion system, and they were kind of terraforming or retrofitting some of these smaller planets. They were trying to find recruits, and like I told Daniel in his previous reading, they were very good at taking something that was shitty and making it sound really good. And they kind of, I think they were intuitive, or they had the ability to read minds, and they knew that you really wanted to join the Starfleet. So they were kind of like, ramping up the story, like, oh, we're gonna, you can join us, you'll have all these adventures, and so they're making it sound really good, and at the time, I think you and Tony had kind of a humanoid canine form, like a hybrid form, okay? And so, but we're multidimensional beings, so there was another aspect of you that incarnated in the Pleiades, okay? So like I said, sometimes souls would choose different paths, and so there was this other aspect of you that incarnated in Taygeta in the Pleiades, okay? In the meantime, there was the aspect of you that was with Daniel that was in Sirius B. Okay, and eventually you joined, this V, I would say, army, okay, or military group, and you got trained and everything, and you were being sent to different missions, and everything seemed really great, and it seemed pretty exciting at first. But then after a while, you guys kind of got the deal that, you know what, we're really just glorified slaves. We're just slaves for these beings. They pretty much own us. And I think you realize that when Tony not Tony, I keep calling him Tony, Daniel. I don't know why. I get him and Tony mixed up. They look like they could be brothers sometimes. Maybe that's what it is. But Daniel got sent on a mission to a planet, and he was kind of left for dead. Okay, so he was left for dead, and he thought that he was going to die on this planet, but then the Pleiadian aspect of you found him on this planet. Okay, this was Pinar. Okay, so in the meantime, he kept telling Pinar, I'm willing to help you guys, but I need to get my love, my love partner out of the clutches of the V group. And so that was like his bargaining chip, like, hey, I'll help you guys out if you help me get her out. But there was a whole complicated series of events that prevented that from happening. Okay, I think he was busy at the time doing intelligence operations and doing some search and rescue missions for some of the prisoners of wars that were stuck in Rigel or Bellatrix or Betelgeuse. And in the meantime, your Syrian aspect of you was stuck in the V group, okay? And I think there was a series of events that happened where there was a general of some sort. So we're just going to call him, I don't know, the general, that I think discovered that Daniel got picked up by the Pleiadians, and he was trying to get information from you. And he kept threatening to kill your family if you didn't give him information. And so you were trying to stall him to keep him from killing your family and killing you in the process, but you weren't successful, and ultimately they killed you. So in the meantime, Pinar, the Pleiadian aspect of you, was telling Daniel, we're going to try to find, your wife or your girlfriend, but they could never find you because you were dead. Okay, or at least the Syrian aspect of you got killed. So after, I think, a period of grieving, Daniel started having a romantic relationship with Pinar, who was another aspect of you. Okay, so Pinar was actually, I think, one of the leaders of a paramilitary group that was, I think, a branch of the Pleiadian Galactic Federation. Okay, so they were kind of like the Navy SEALs or the Green Berets, if you want to equate them to like an Earth group. I'm prior military, so I kind of know these groups, but so there was kind of a hardness about her that, or a toughness, I don't know if hardness is the right word, maybe the toughness about her, that because she was trained in Taygeta, which was an extremely divine masculine star system, they were very technological people, they were very much, stuck with facts and, and being analytical, and, so her personality, I think was somewhat similar to the Syrian aspect of you, but was very different at the same time. There was kind of like you were a little bit tougher, I think, not quite as emotional. Okay, where the Syrian aspect of you was very emotional, kind of flew into into anger quite readily. Whereas this new Pleiadian aspect of you was very stoic, very much kept her emotions inside, didn't show a whole lot of her emotions. And so this is kind of the aspect of you that you're carrying into planet Earth, okay? So the Syrian aspect was killed, okay? So the Syrian aspect of you eventually got reintegrated. So it's more the feminine aspect of you, whereas the more masculine aspect of you, which was the Pleiadian aspect, became the primary personality. Okay, so I know that sounds kind of confusing, but
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So so you ended up, I think, getting involved with some missions in Orion. Okay, and I think the main thing that you were doing with Daniel was you were trying for a while to work on getting intelligence to assist what was known as the Black League Resistance Fighters. So these were the military group that was based in the Orion belt stars. So these folks were they were resisting the Empire, or the V group, as you guys call it. And so you were, I think, so I think you were always very mission driven, okay? And I think because you're still pretty young in this lifetime, you haven't yet tapped into this mission driven aspect of you, but there is an aspect of you that's very, I would say, devoted to the mission. Okay, so I think this project that you and Daniel are working on, this movie project, is giving you the opportunity to tap into that. Okay, the leadership qualities will come later, I think, as you gain more experience or you get involved with some more projects. So I think because you're young, you're still kind of formulating. I think various personality aspects of yourself that you haven't had the opportunity to tap into yet, but you'll eventually evolve and move into developing more of these personality traits. As I think as you gain more experience and with time. So you ended up in Orion. Okay, so you're working in the Orion system. And one of the things I see about you, because you're part of a paramilitary police force of some sort, you were, I think, very good at being very, very rational about things. And I think this is a quality you currently have. Like, you don't get overly emotional about stuff. You kind of take things from a perspective of logic. Okay, like it doesn't mean that you're not intuitive. I think you're highly intuitive, actually. But when you're looking at certain situations, you're very much looking at it from a kind of a very rational point of view. Okay, I don't know if that makes sense or not, but yeah. So I think this is a quality that you currently have from that previous incarnation, and so kind of what I'm seeing here is that you, I think because you've had past lives in Lyra and in Sirius where family members were killed or things happened, and it was almost, I think, easier for you to keep that rational state of being rather than getting yourself immersed into emotions. Okay. So I think that's why you chose to be an Aquarius in this lifetime. Okay. So the other thing I'm seeing too is that when so you and Daniel were consistently working together, and you had this kind of love relationship going at the same time, and he's your twin flame, so you felt very connected with him, and eventually it took many years, but eventually Orion did shift to light consciousness. So Orion did get unified. However, there were some of the dark beings that were part of the Empire or the V group that didn't want to be integrated into the light. So they escaped to Earth. So they were like, we'll just take over another system. We'll go to Earth. There's a bunch of primitive people on Earth. We can bamboozle them and take over. So now, because I think a lot of us, we were involved with Orion. We were involved with the Orion conflicts. So because you and Daniel worked so hard to help get this unification of Orion happening, you were asked to assist with the Earth Ascension project. So that's why you guys are here. Okay. And it's interesting because Tony, I keep calling him Tony, I don't know why. Daniel's like second wave, okay? So according to Dolores Cannon, she talks about the 3 waves of volunteers. I'm a first waver, I'm an oldster, but Daniel is definitely a system buster. So he is like here to break down the system. He is here to just help the matrix crumble. Okay, and you're more of a system builder, okay, because you're born in the 90s and kind of the late 90s at that. So you're here to help create the new Earth, okay. So that's predominantly your generational role, okay. But in a way, you and Daniel make a really good team because you both kind of complement each other. So it's because he has qualities that you don't have, and you have some qualities that he doesn't have. I think with you, you're very practical and you're very kind of matter of fact. You're very calm. You're not super emotional about things, or at least you don't show it. Okay, like if you are emotional, you kind of keep it inside, and so I think in that way you really balance out Daniel, because Daniel can be very emotional and he can be very, swept up into maybe the possibilities rather than the reality. Okay, so it's kind of like you're kind of like an anchor for him, so you kind of keep him on track. Okay, he's already on the right path, but you just help keep him on track. So you and he, I think, accepted this assignment to Earth. Okay, and so you chose to incarnate in Atlantis. Okay, so Atlantis was the first civilization on Earth that you two were connected with. And I think you two were both governmental scientists that I think quickly saw that the kind of the government and the system in Atlantis was getting increasingly more and more corrupted, and you guys were trying to offset that by maybe informing people about what was happening in Atlantis, but it wasn't successful. The Atlantean people, they were too attached to material things, they were too attached to technology, they didn't want to hear about things that were going wrong, because they had, it was kind of like they lived this kind of very, very technologically enhanced life, and they didn't want to rock the boat, you know. So you two were very unsuccessful in Atlantis, okay. And then so it's like I told Daniel, it's kind of like in this lifetime, you're closing the karmic loop of what happened in Atlantis, where you couldn't stop the government from going down a dark path. Okay, and it's like this project, this movie project that you guys are involved with, was designed to. I think you two both took on this project in order to send out a cautionary tale to humanity in this lifetime, to help kind of trigger some soul memories, or to trigger some remembrance of what happened in the past, what happened in Orion, and help awaken people, you know, to what's happening currently here on Earth, you know, where these governments are so corrupted, and they have these really dark agendas, and you know, and that's the way it was in Atlantis. Okay, let me see if there's anything else. It's interesting. I kind of went through your story kind of fast. I apologize. There was many, I think, aspects of your galactic story that, because you also had a connection with Procyon, and with I think other star systems like Alpha Centauri, and I mean, there's like this whole other. So it's not that I'm trying to discount those lifetimes, but those were lifetimes you had that you did not share with Daniel. So it was just you having your own experiences in these places. But interesting.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. Interestingly enough, you were always kind of connected with Starfleet, which is kind of interesting. But
yeah.
I'm sorry, you were going to ask a question.
So I have a sister that I'm incredibly close with in this life.
Yeah.
And I was just curious if she was in any of my galactic.
It's kind of like she's the incarnation of the Syrian aspect of you, like it's your. I think the reason why you two are so close is you're almost like the same soul, but you split again, or she's like another soul aspect of you, but she's more connected with the Syrian. Like this aspect of you is more connected with the Pleiadian. Okay, the Pleiadian persona that you had, but Kalina is more the Syrian. Now, because Daniel became very connected with Pinar after the death of Kalina, okay, we'll call her Kalina, he's more aligned with the aspect of you that's you, and not with Kalina. Okay,
right.
Okay, so
I actually met Dan through Kalina.
Oh, did you? Interesting. Yeah, and it's kind of like Pinar, I guess, in your guys' story, she was constantly, I think, trying to seek Kalina for Daniel, but she couldn't find her because she was killed off. Okay, but in this lifetime, Kalina is getting an opportunity to redeem her soul. You know, so because I think she kind of felt guilty that she wasn't able to save certain family members, or she wasn't able to reconnect with Daniel, and so in a way, it's kind of like her soul aspect was kind of like, okay, I'm going to reconnect Daniel with Pinar because they're meant to be together, so but the reason why you two are so close is because you're part of the same soul group. There's a very close connection. But with Kalina, I don't see any Pleiadian incarnations, which is interesting. It's kind of like, she's been very much on Sirius, and then she had, some soul missions in Orion. Okay, so she kind of got involved with some of the Orions until she got killed, in Orion. And I think you were connected with her in Atlantis. I think she became like your sister in Atlantis. That I think before she got recruited by the V people, she was planning on I think she wanted to join the Galactic Federation, but that never happened. Okay, so that's why she got kind of bamboozled into joining this other group. But I think one of the things she wanted to become was a medical officer. Like she wanted to really learn healing but there's also a very creative aspect to her. Okay, so she's kind of like more the divine feminine expression of your soul, whereas you're more the divine masculine. Okay. Now, what kind of work do you do when you're not doing filmmaking? Or I know you're going to be acting in the film, but
yeah.
Yeah.
I enjoy gardening. I enjoy writing, creating.
Okay, so you're a creative soul too. It sounds like, yeah. So, yeah, it's kind of like, what I get with you and Kalina is that neither one of you really wanted to return to the divine masculine aspects of life. Like neither one of you was going to necessarily be in the corporate world or work 9 to 5 or be in the military or do any of that kind of work because you've done that in past lives. So neither one of you were like, oh no, we're not going there. Okay. So so as an artist, does she assist you guys with the movie, with some of the concepts and all that stuff, or?
She's been more. She's not really into the filmmaking ideas. So she's more like a production assistant. She's just kind of generally helping out, but
Gotcha.
Not so much on the filmmaking.
Yeah, got it. Okay. Because I do see that there's a soul contract between you and her that that there's a reintegration of your souls, but there's also this reintegration of let's help each other out with this with this ascension project, this Earth project. So she's always going to be a part of your life, So she's always going to. Now, is she in a relationship or?
Not currently. They just broke up.
Oh, that's too bad. Because I do see she's going to get a lot of healing from a relationship because in a way she kind of gave up Daniel for you, so she kind of like allowed you to be with Daniel, but I do see that she'll get a lot of healing from being in another relationship with another starseed, somebody that's definitely spiritual and in alignment with, I think the light worker agenda. But I'm sorry to hear that her relationship broke up. It's probably clearing the way for the real relationship to come into her life. So
yeah, sure.
Yeah. So trying to see if there's anything else about. So there was the Atlantean story, and I think you and Daniel have kind of tag teamed together on various Earth incarnations where the mission was always to expand consciousness, to get people awakened, to get them in alignment with their own spiritual paths. Okay, and part of what I saw in Daniel's reading was that you and Daniel are this movie making thing is just kind of the current iteration of your mission. That your mission is going to be shifting. So right now you're just trying to get people activated and awakened. But eventually they'll be like, well, how do we get these folks that are awakened to become galactic citizens? So now we got Earth people awakening, and So how do we take them to that next level? Okay, so there might be some film work or some creative projects that you guys will be involved with that will help assist that. Then there'll be this reintegration of these Pleiadian groups or these Sirian groups that are going to be assisting planet Earth, and you and Daniel are going to be kind of like this power couple that's going to be an emissary between the galactic races and the Earth people. Okay, so you'll be kind of interfacing between these two groups. There's a reason why your last name is Bridge, okay, because you're going to be bridging this gap, okay. So there's that, okay. And then let me see if there's anything else your guides want you to know. As far as the question you asked about how do I integrate these stronger, female archetypes, I don't know why this is coming up, but they're saying almost like you have to do method acting. Like you almost have to pretend that you're Pinar or you're one of these personalities, from your, so it's kind of like fake it till you make it kind of thing, so. So they're saying like you might have to do some method acting where you actually pretend that you are Pinar and you're taking on her personality traits, even though she's she's just an aspect of you. She's not you today. It's just like a past life aspect of yourself, and it's like and then you might even say, what strong women characteristics or what strong women roles or archetypes can I integrate? And Joan of Arc is somebody that comes to mind, and I don't know, Pocahontas, or there's like personalities that were very strong, personalities that were females, and I may be missing a lot of them, but there might be personality aspects from these individuals that you can integrate. The Joan of Arc one seems to be the most in alignment. I don't know, that's the one that keeps popping up, but
okay.
But
yeah, because I've had in helping Daniel write the story, I've had what I found to be a very deep connection to his love interest from Sirius.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah.
And I feel more attracted to portraying that type.
Yeah.
Like that would come easier.
Yeah, gotcha.
But when it comes to the Pleiadian, I find it difficult to. It's almost like you don't want to play yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you want to play something else, so it makes sense that I just have to do what comes naturally. If she's I brought more of her into this incarnation. Yeah,
it feels like you're kind of aligning more with the Pleiadian, I think, for a reason, because I think it's easy for you to fall into the divine feminine, but it's almost like you're being called to be divine masculine. So you're having to integrate some aspects of yourself that are divine masculine that are really not like naturally comfortable for you. Okay, and I find this to be opposite for me. Like I have a hard time integrating divine feminine aspects. Like I feel more comfortable being in the divine masculine, and I'm a Leo, so I'm got that masculine personality anyway. But when I'm with my partner, my husband, he would prefer me to be more divine feminine, and I'm like, I don't know if I feel comfortable just for surrendering and being this divine feminine me, But so it's like I always want to take charge, but so it's kind of like for me, it's the opposite for me. Like I feel like, well, I have to really work hard to integrate the divine feminine, but in your case, you have to work hard to bring in the divine masculine. And so maybe Tony, I keep calling him Tony. I don't know why I keep doing that, Daniel, maybe Daniel is playing more the divine feminine in this lifetime so that you can bring out those divine masculine qualities. And twin flames will often do that. They'll kind of lean more towards one iteration of themselves so the other one can develop personality traits that can balance, and complement each other. So, but yeah, I would say you're mostly there. I think it's just maybe just building up that confidence, which is gonna. I mean, I think you'll come quickly on it. I don't think it's gonna take you a long time. I think it'll be. And like I said, you kind of almost have to fake it till you make it. I kind of like, okay, I'm going to pretend to be this Pinar person, even though I'm not. I'm more aligned with the Kalina personality, So yeah, kind of an interesting personalities and integration of one soul, like.
Yeah.
Like between Daniel, you, and Kalina, there's like this kind of like this love triangle thing, but. I mean, not that Daniel and Kalina are romantically involved, but it's kind of like they're still connected. Yeah, there's still a connection. Yeah, and it's kind of interesting that she was the one that introduced you to Daniel too. That's kind of cool. So how did they meet? I'm kind of curious now. How did
they meet?
Yeah, how did they meet? Yeah.
Through a former friend.
Gotcha.
They kind of met up and became close, and then I came up to hang out with her, and she was with him, and then we met, and it was straight away. So.
Yeah, like you guys recognized each other or something.
Yeah.
It's always amazing how that happens. I think when I met my husband, he seemed very familiar to me. I think that was what set him apart from other guys that I've met before him, that it was this kind of a familiarity, and I felt really comfortable, and I don't feel comfortable with men usually because most of them are jerks, but obviously there's something special about Daniel, I mean, he's pretty, and it's interesting because Daniel and my husband have the same birthday. They're
That's
both
wild.
Yeah, they're both born March 19th. Obviously different years, but yeah, I was telling Daniel that I said you have the same birthday, and my husband's also from Sirius, so
no way.
Yeah, so that's kind of crazy, but so there's soul aspects of many of us out there. It's kind of like we just keep repeating. It's like a certain male archetype that keeps repeating itself out there or something, but that's really pretty cool. And then I think Tony's, his birthday is March 17th. So so his birthday is actually real close to Daniel's. So it's no wonder they connect with each other really well. Is there any questions? Is there anything that I have not answered that I could help you with? I mean, we still got a little time left, but I feel like I went through like millions of years of your story in like a matter of 45 minutes. But I'm just trying to see if there's anything that your guides want you to know. Let me look at future probabilities. Maybe that'll be fun to look at. So I think Daniel is always going to be the face of the production company. So I always kind of see him kind of being like the spokesperson. Okay. But what I see with you is that you're going to be invited to speak at some events where you'll be kind of giving the feminine perspective of working, creating this story. Because I think this movie is going to be a hit. I think it's going to be like kind of like a cult following initially. Like it'll be like, kind of like an independent film where there's a cult following, and then more and more people are going to watch it, and people are going to be talking about it, and then so I'm seeing that you're either going to be writing or speaking. I'm thinking more writing about your experiences in creating this film, and what's the deeper meaning behind it. So it's not just a story. I mean, it's not a fiction story. It's actually a real story. It's the story that a lot of us went through when we had Incarnations in Orion. So. And I think you'll be either interviewed on podcasts or maybe on maybe even on TV, talking about the film, and but you're going to be offering kind of like your perspective of, okay, so why did we create this film? What was the deeper meaning of it? It's not just a fun sci-fi story. It's not just, there is a deeper meaning to it. Okay, and I think it's going to become like a series, or kind of similar to Star Wars, where there'll be like this whole backdrop story that's created around these characters, and a lot of them will be based on your Akashic, story. Like where did Pinar come from? How's Pinar connected with the Syrian girl? So what's the real connection there? What happened in Vega? It was like, there's like, so many iterations of the story that you can really kind of create into multiple movies, so I kind of see that happening. So you guys are going to be involved with that for a while, but then there's going to be and part of it's going to be this insertion of codes where it's going to activate people to start remembering. And they're going to be like, oh wow, maybe I was a part of that story, or maybe that I was on that planet, or I was part of that experience. And then they'll start asking questions, they'll start looking at themselves, and the next thing you know, they'll be on the spiritual path. So there's a lot to look forward to, I think. You're just barely getting started, so yeah.
That sounds amazing. I mean, I was hoping that it eventually would become more of a series, like you said, just to expand on the world, because
I feel like it's going to be like a whole world created around it. Like, there's going to be a development of characters and their backdrop stories, and so what was Pinar's story before she ran in, found Daniel, or we're just calling him Daniel. I think his actual name is Enoch or something like that. But so what was her backdrop story? What happened to the girl that was in Sirius? What happened to the people that were part of the V that eventually escaped, and so there's a whole bunch of stories that could be developed from this. So I think it's going to be pretty cool. Okay, well, that's pretty much all I'm getting for now, unless there's any other questions. Do you have any questions? Is there anything that you want me to get into, or no?
Can't think of anything. Okay. This has been really interesting.
Yeah, it has been. Yeah, it's been interesting for me too. It kind of confirms things that I've seen about Sirius and Orion. And thank you for allowing me to hijack your soul memories for a little bit. But if there's not anything else, I'm going to do a little closing prayer just to kind of close down the records, and then we'll call it a night. Okay, I would like to thank the masters, teachers.